Hey, what up, everyone? Today I want to talk about the NHL offseason. It took me a while to record this and prepare for this video, so I hope y'all enjoy. I want to cover the draft, free agency, and some trades as well. I want to mention that I just went to the draft, and that was pretty cool. And free agency starts in less than 2 hours, so I just want to make a quick video talking about um, kind of the off season. I want to run through my favorite draft picks picked, potential trades, past trades, as well as one buyout in particular, and then a ton of free agency predictions. So I'll just start off with my favorite draft picks. Easily, my favorite one is Connor Bedard because he is 17 years old for the next 17 days, and in 57 games, he put up 71 goals, 72 assists for 143 points, and in 7 playoff games, 10 goals, 10 assists for 20 points. Just absurd. Best prospect we have seen in a long, long time since Connor McDavid. Um, there's not much to say. He is phenomenal. And yeah, but my second favorite draft pick in this draft class has to be Matt Mishkov. He is from Russia. He's played in the KHL. He's under contract for the next 3 years in the KHL. And he got drafted by the Flyers. Um, he's going to be a stud. I think he could lift the Stanley Cup with the Flyers. And he I think they stole him at 7. Then next, Adam Fantilli to Gavin Smith's Columbus Blue Jackets. He's a dog. He should have gone number 2 to Anaheim, but they passed on him, got Leo Carlson, which I'll talk about in a second. But he's really great. He won the Colby Baker Award, which I think is the best college freshman for hockey. A plus pick, easy. Um, they're going to be really good in the next couple of years. Columbus is going to be a playoff team. And then Leo Carlson, who is going to be a first line center as well in the future. And they pick him at 2. They pass on Fantilli. Leo Carlson's big. He's going to be good as well. But I thought Fantilli was a better player. Next, Ryan Leonard, right winger from the U.S. national team. He has a lot of upside. He has comparisons to Matthew Tkachuk, so we'll see if those hold up. But I think the Capitals, with what picks they had the best draft. And they got him at 8. At 13, Buffalo Sabres selected Zach Benson from the WHL for the Winnipeg Ice. Another steal pick. He was a top 10 prospect, and he should have gone 10. Arizona guys took like Daniel Boot, Tom Wieland, Nate Danielson all went before. Shimashev went before. Like, he could have gone as high as 6. So I thought that was a steal. Um, the Preds had a great pick at 15. Matthew Wood is the youngest player in the NCAA last year, and he gets drafted by the Preds at 15th overall. He's a right winger from UConn. He's put up solid numbers. It's going to take him a while to get into the league, but once he does, he's going to be a second line center potentially. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I got 3 more, 2 in the first round. This guy, he I went over to his friend's house yesterday, and I just missed him. He just left and went to his family like about an hour before I got there. But his name's Kobe Barlow. He was staying at one of my friend's house during the draft, and he just got drafted by Winnipeg, 18th overall. He played for Owen Sound in the OHL, which that's who my friend played for, Matt Gouda, um, who is a goaltender for the Florida Panthers. Um, and I mean, it sucks that he has to go play in Winnipeg, but at least he's a first round draft pick. And then finally, for the first round, Oliver Moore from the U.S. development team. It's kind of a steal, kind of like Zach Benson should have gone way earlier. Should have gone around 13, 14, 15, like around the Preds, but he falls all the way to the Blackhawks at 19. So they're very lucky to get Bedard and Oliver Moore, another center. And then in the second round, Andrew Cristall for the Washington Capitals. He played in the WHL for the Kelowna Rockets, left winger. He was a 20th overall projection. He falls all the way down to 46. Um, amazing, amazing, amazing draft pick right there. And then to buyouts, I think this was so stupid. Oh, sorry. I apologize. Gabe Perreault, um, from the U.S. national team, drafted by the New York Rangers at pick 23. Again, a guy that should have gone way earlier, and he falls to 23. But sorry about that. The buyout, there was a couple like Blake Wheeler, Mike Riley, but the main one was Matt Duchene. He it was so stupid. I mean, he's paid $8 million for the next 3 years, and his buyout penalty is about 9 1/3, I believe, or 9 1/5. It's 9 1/5, and next year he has to get paid 2.5, and 25 it's 5.5, 26 is 6.5, and then for the next 3 years after that, 27, 28, 29, it's 1.5 each, and kind of brutal. We used our two retaining salary slots for Ryan Johansson at 50% and fucking Matthias Ekholm at 4%. It was $250,000 we retained salary when we traded him to the Oilers. And if we didn't do that, we could have traded Matt Duchene's contract instead of buying him out. I think it's so stupid. And I think we're going to use that money that we bought him out for, and we're going to get like a center that we just don't need. I think we should tank next year, let the good guys get better. I don't have, I'm a very positive guy when it comes to the Preds, but I do not have faith for next year. But we'll see how it goes. All right, and then I'll hit trades, and then I'll go and hit free agency. So potential trades would be Carter Hart. He has kind of like been in the like trade rumors, trade talks recently. So we'll see if he actually gets dealt by the Flyers. There was rumors that he was going to get dealt. In the Kevin Hayes deal, there's rumors that he's going to get dealt and like to Los Angeles. So we'll see where he goes. That's just a name to keep an eye on. Alex DeBrincat, I heard he was going potentially to Detroit, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen anymore. I heard that there's just Stevie Y doesn't want to pay that much for him, so we'll see where he lands. He is from Michigan, so another name is basically everyone in the Calgary Flames that already traded Tyler Toffoli for Johannes Siegenthaler from the Devils and a third-round pick, and they got fleeced, in my opinion, in that deal. And no, so like Noah Hannafin would be in that talk. And then Erik Karlsson came off a career year, 100 points as a defenseman. You haven't seen that. Yossi got 97, I believe, last year, and he didn't win the Norris. I'm sorry. Eric Carlson he won the Norris this year. Um, so the Sharks need to cash out. I mean, it's like 9.5 million in his contract, or 10.5. It's ridiculously high. So they need to move that now. And finally, Connor Hellebuck for the Winnipeg Jets. So he has been rumored to get dealt to basically everywhere. We'll see if he actually gets dealt, as well as Mark Scheifele. So we'll see that. Now that I'm done talking about potential trades, let's talk about a little trades that have happened so far. There has been plenty. There's actually zero trades during the draft, which was during the first round, which was absurd. But Pierre-Luc Dubois to the LA Kings for Vladar and Iafallo, and another prospect, can't remember his name, and a second. I think it was a pretty good deal for both teams. Winnipeg uh, got got rid of their bad mojo, their bad he didn't want to be there, and they replaced him with three pretty good players, and then LA Kings got what they wanted, but they kind of don't have the cap space now. Ryan Johansson traded to the Colorado Avalanche for Alex Galchenyuk, aka nothing. And at first, I didn't like this deal. I thought the Preds should have got something out of him. But the more I've kind of talked to people and the more I've kind of heard, it seems like it was a good deal. We retained 50% for the next 2 years, which it's better than buying him out, as we can see from the Matt Duchene contract. And yeah, it's that one was okay. We cleared $4 million for the next 2 years. Um, Next, the Damon Severson and Ivan Provorov acquired by the Columbus Blue Jackets from the Flyers and from the Devils, respectively. I mean, Columbus has improved their blue line a whole lot, and I love that deal for them. They're going to be a sleeper team next year to make the playoffs, just if Fantilli plays a lot. And then Chicago acquiring Hall and Foligno for basically nothing is pretty awesome as well. They acquired them for basically two AHL/NHLers, like basically nothing, and they overpaid them, which you need to get the cap floor somehow. But Taylor Hall is going to be Connor Bedard's line mate, so it's going to be. I think that's a fantastic trade for the Chicago Blackhawks. A plus. The Avs also made another great deal. They traded Alex Newhook and got Ross Colton and a first round pick in exchange, and I think that's first. They got Ross Colton from the Tampa Bay Lightning, but they got a first and a second from Montreal for Newhook, and they flipped that second for Ross Colton. I think it's a great deal for both teams. Yeah, and finally, the final one I'm going to talk about is the Chicago Blackhawks trading for Corey Perry. If y'all know me, he's my least favorite athlete in all sports. I can't stand him. If he was standing at my front door, I'd punch him in the face. I hate that guy so much. Um, so fuck the Blackhawks, I guess. I love Bedard. I met Bedard, but yeah, I can't stand Corey Perry. So I guess we're on the Corey Perry hate train and Chicago Blackhawks hate train until he drops dead. But anyways, let's move on to free agency predictions. So the way I'm going to structure this is I'm going to go by division where they're signed in. And I tried to make a signing for each team, and I think I did it, but I'm not 100% sure. But we'll start with the Metro. I have Matt Dumba defenseman going from Minnesota to Washington. He didn't have a great season last year, but my roommate Matthew Taylor is a huge Capitals fan, and we've been talking about how they could get Dumba and hopefully bounce back his career. And I think Washington is a team that it was a fluke that they missed the playoffs this year, and I think they go back and make it next year. Um, and then next on the list in the Metro, Blake Wheeler from right winger from Winnipeg, former captain, goes to the Carolina Hurricanes. Um, they need they're gonna lose Matt Pacioretty, and Blake Wheeler wants to play on the East Coast, so I think that's going to be a great move for him in Carolina. And Carolina has a bunch of cap space. I believe it's around 20 million, so they got some money to spend. I also have Carolina signing former Vancouver defenseman Oliver Ekman-Larsson. They're losing some D guys, so I think they replace him with OEL. Um, and then I have the Rangers getting Pius Suter, right winger from the Detroit Red Wings. I believe he's a right winger. He also may play center a little bit. He used to play for the Blackhawks and then signed a 2-year deal with Detroit. Played pretty well, and I think he kind of replaces the Tarasenko's. He's not a very well known name, but he's a player. Um, Next on the list in the Metro, JVR, he goes from Philly. James Van Riemsdyk goes from Philly, left winger, to Washington. Just kind of like a Craig Smith replacement. Just kind of depth. Um, a former Capital, but he was traded to the Avalanche at the deadline. And Matthew Taylor is one of his favorite players of all time. Just kidding. Um, he Lars Eller, he scored the Stanley Cup game winner, but Caps fans have not seemed to like him recently. But I have him going from the Avs to the Hurricanes, kind of Paul Stastny, third line center replacement. Uh, Another one is in the Metro, Peter Engvall. He played for Toronto earlier, but got traded to the Islanders. He's a left winger, and I think he signs with Pittsburgh. Just kind of depth, keeping the playoff hopes alive for Pittsburgh, um, and trying to start a new streak with trying to keep the Crosby days alive. Um, and then the next one, Jonathan Klingberg. I think the defenseman is kind of hard, but he got traded to Minnesota at the deadline, and I think he signs with the New York Islanders. They just kind of need like one or two guys to sign as defensemen, and I think he would be a good replacement. Maybe not replacement, but yeah. Um, Next on the list, a New York Islander, former New Jersey Devil, goes back to New Jersey. Left winger Zach Parise. He started his career there, and then he signed that huge contract with Minnesota, and then I think he goes back to New Jersey. Um, and then Gustav Nyquist, um, also goes back to where I think he will sign. He's a right winger, for Minnesota, got traded there at the deadline. I think he goes to Columbus, back to Columbus. So we'll see if that happens. And then finally for the skaters, Austin Watson, left winger, former Preds legend, and Ottawa Senator, goes and signs with Philly because they have no cap space, but they're losing some fourth line wingers, so I think they go over there. And then for the goalies, there's a lot of them that are signing in the Metro. Um, I think Freddie Anderson will sign he will go from Carolina to Pittsburgh. They need goaltenders. They're gonna lose Jari, so I think that will happen. Another division switch. Sion Varlamov, New York Islanders backup goaltender. He's going to be the 1B option, maybe 1A option for the Carolina Hurricanes next year. They're going to lose Freddie Anderson, so they need a replacement. And then Antti Raanta resigns with Carolina after that great playoff run. Jonathan Quick is going to be a New York Ranger. Book it. After he wins his third cup with Vegas. Speaking of Vegas, Laurent Brossoit. He's injured, but I think he signs with the New York Islanders. At the beginning of the season, they'll have a guy in the AHL and then bring Brossoit up when he is healthy. And then Alex Delkovich, I believe he's from Cleveland. That is what my friend Gavin Smith has told me. And he signs with Columbus after having a rough couple of years in Detroit. So that is the Metro right there. Moving on to the Atlantic, um, I think center Ryan O'Reilly goes from the Toronto Maple Leafs to the Detroit Red Wings. They have a ton of cap space. They have like 30 million, I believe. It's absurd. Um, and I think that happens, as well as another player trade at the deadline, Patrick Kane, right winger, Hawks legend. He goes to back home to Buffalo Sabres. Why not? He's gonna take a while to sign, but when he eventually does, I think it will be with the Sabres. Um, and then to everyone's favorite, the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup Finals. They've got to be one of my favorite teams just because of watching them, getting to know some Florida fans, and getting to know an actual player. So I think that's pretty awesome. But I think they go out and sign JT Compher, um, former Colorado Avalanche center. Um, I think they need a little bit of depth, a little bit of help down the middle. Um, Obviously, they got Barkov, but you never know. And I think Comper would be great in South Florida. Um, Next, a guy from moving from Florida to another team, Alex Killorn. I believe he's been in Tampa his entire career, and he's a right winger. And I think he cashes out with Detroit. They have a ton of money in cap space. I think he goes up there. And then to replace Ryan O'Reilly, I think Max Domi from the Dallas Stars center. He played with Chicago at the beginning of the year, got traded to Dallas at the deadline, went to the conference finals. I think goes to the Toronto. Kind of maybe a prove it deal, like 1 year, 5 mil. Last year I did all the salaries. This year there's so many names on here, so I don't think I would like to do that. But um, moving on, another Florida Panther, Shane Gostisbehere, played on the Arizona Coyotes, a right shot defenseman, I believe, or left shot defenseman. Um, and then he got traded to Carolina and enjoyed their playoff run. And I think he cashes out and goes to Florida to replace Rocco Gudis. And then another one, uh, Ryan Reeves to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Bucket, 3 years, 1.3 billion. That's the guess. Let's see if it happens. Also, Milan Lucic is going back to Boston. Book it. Oh shit. I forgot about a prolific player. Matt Duchene just got bought out of the Predators. I think he signs with the Boston Bruins. They got a little bit of money to play with. I think he signs with like a 2 year deal, 5 mil. So we'll see if that happens. Um, yeah, another Florida signing. They got like $14 million in cap space. So I don't know if all these deals are going to actually happen. They may need to deal like a Sam Bennett. We'll see. But I think they signed Phil Kessel to like a retirement home deal, like 1 year, like 1 mil. Um, he goes to Florida. He enjoys it. He's a right winger, loves hot dogs, and just won another ring. Um, oh yeah, another Toronto Maple Leaf, Eric Johnson, been with the Avs his entire career. Finally gonna hit the open market. I think he goes to Toronto just to kind of replace the Lucians of the world. Um, another the Metro, sorry, the Atlantic is has a lot of teams. They got a lot of money to spend. I think Jason Zucker and Josh Bailey, they're both wingers. Um, Jason Zucker's from Pittsburgh, had a good year last year. I think he signs with Ottawa for around $5 million, and then Josh Bailey just got bought out by the Blackhawks, but he was traded to them from the Islanders. Former alternate captain for them. I think they both signed with Ottawa. Tampa finally makes a deal. I think they signed Morgan Geekie, who wasn't qualified by Seattle. That's just kind of like a low risk, high reward type of signing. So we'll see if that happens. Nick Bustan, I think he was traded from Arizona to Edmonton, and I think he goes to Toronto. Teddy Bluger, he's a right winger. Teddy Bluger, who's a center, I think that's another guy that could go to Detroit. He was traded from Pittsburgh to Vegas. He won a ring, so good for him. And I think he cashes out with Detroit. And Rodriguez, um, he spent a lot of his career in the Atlantic, with Toronto. So, but he played with the Avs last year, kind of on a prove it deal, and I think he goes to Montreal. They don't have a lot of cap space, so I think that's a guy they go and get. And then another guy staying in the Atlantic, um, Eric Gustafson, the defenseman from Toronto. I think he goes to Boston. They don't need, they don't have a lot of money, so they can't re-sign a lot of guys. So we'll see what they do. Kevin Shattenkirk, defenseman from Anaheim, goes to Toronto. Just kind of replaces depth. Travis Hamonic from Ottawa, he goes to Boston as well. They need a lot of replacement, so curious to see what they'll do. And then finally for the forwards and the defensemen, Garnet Hathaway resigns with Boston. But on to goaltenders. I think Jonas Korpisalo is traded from Columbus to the LA Kings, and I think he signs with Ottawa. They need a goalie bad. Let's see if they can. Let's see if they can do it. Cam Talbot, I think he goes from Ottawa to Detroit, just kind of backing up Billy Husso. Um, I mean, he didn't have a fantastic year, but we'll see what he does in Detroit. Martin Jones goes from Seattle, started the most games out of every single free agent goaltender, but he had a save percentage, I think, of .88, which is not great, but Tampa needs a backup just for like 20 games of the season. Brian Elliott's like 38, so I think he's done, so they go get Martin Jones. And oh yeah, finally, everyone's favorite, the Florida Panthers. Uh, Mac, I don't think is ready. He's 22, and they're gonna lose Alex Lynn. So I think they go get a 2-year replacement in James Reiner until Mac or Spencer Knight or whoever is ready. And yeah, they get James Reiner from San Jose, just kind of to back up Bobrovsky, and hopefully the Florida Panthers can make another run at it. Now on to my favorite team's division, the Nashville Predators in the Central. And start off with a bang. I personally would not like this, but I've heard a lot of rumors that Tyler Bertuzzi from the Boston Bruins, right winger, would sign with Nashville for like 7 years, $8 million, which is basically exactly like the Matt Duchene deal. So I I think it's gonna happen, but I hope it doesn't. We'll see though. Um, and then Vladimir Tarasenko, he goes from the New York Rangers slash St. Louis Blues to the Colorado Avalanche. They have a little bit of money to spend, and I think he wants to go win a cup, and another one, and I think Colorado is the place to go. And then on to one of my least favorite teams. There's a lot of teams I don't like in the Central, obviously. But Max Pacioretty, never been a fan of him. Left winger just came off two Achilles tears, and he will sign with Dallas. He was with Carolina, played like 4 games, and yeah, I think he goes to Dallas. That's just a landing spot I could see him going to. Jonathan Taves, guy I've always liked, goes from Chicago, goes back home to Winnipeg, um, and retired up there because that's where he's from. He's old, former captain of Chicago. I could see him going someplace warm because Winnipeg is a shithole, but I think he goes home. Makes sense. Thomas Tatar goes from the New Jersey Devils to Minnesota. They just kind of need replacements, so I thought that made sense. Uh, Tyler Yamamoto, who was on the Oilers but traded to the Detroit Red Wings for future considerations. He's a right winger. He was just waived or bought out, and I think he just goes to St. Louis because that was the first time I put St. Louis, and they don't have that much cap space. One of my favorite players in the league, Paul Stastny, center for Carolina Hurricanes. I think he signed to the Nashville Predators just as a depth center, just kind of help the younger guys get to know hockey, I guess, because we have no center depth anymore because we bought out Matt Duchene. Jesse Puljujarvi, I think he was traded from the Edmonton Oilers to the Carolina Hurricanes, and I think he goes to Arizona because why not? I think that's just somewhere that some bum like him would go. Um, and Arizona's got a ton of cap space, but I got no idea what they're gonna do with that cap space. Um, Scott Mayfield, defenseman from the New York Islanders, goes to the Colorado Avalanche, kind of replace Eric Johnson. It's simple enough. Luke Shin from the Toronto Maple Leafs, they need to replace Matt Dumba. So I think that he goes to Minnesota. Um, let's see. Final one for the uh, skaters. Alex Kerfoot of the Toronto Maple Leafs, left winger, goes to the Chicago Blackhawks because you can never overpay all these players. Like, never pay them too much. And then 2 goaltenders, former Florida Panthers goaltender Alex Lynn goes to Chicago. They have no one. They have Alex Mrazek, and then uh like Alex Sorenkin. He's like 35. He's like a bomb. He's like would play in the AHL anywhere else except Chicago. So I think they actually like speed up the rebuild because they have Bedard and they have Taylor Hall, and they get a goaltender in Alex Lynn. And then Thomas Greiss goes from St. Louis because St. Louis is like they have a goaltender in the minors that's going to start, or that's going to be the second option behind Bennington. And he leaves St. Louis and he goes up to Winnipeg to replace my least favorite goaltender in the league, David Riddick, because he was terrible with the Nashville Predators. And then finally, the Pacific Division. Start off with a bang. Dmitry Orlov, former Washington Capital, best defenseman on the market. He goes from Boston to Seattle. They have a bunch of cap. They have a bunch of cap space, and I think they use it on a defenseman like Orlov and try and win a Stanley Cup. Anaheim's got the most cap space. They have $39 million in cap space. So we'll see what they do. See if they sign a bunch of young guys, or I don't know what they're gonna do, but I could see them signing Ryan Graves, defenseman from the New Jersey Devils, former Colorado Avalanche defenseman before getting dealt there. And I'm like not looking at anything besides my notes, and I'm just like firing off all these like former players like he played for them. So I'm pat on the back for me, I guess. But I think he signs with Anaheim. Uh, and then let's see, a string of guys for Anaheim: Rocco Gudis, enforcer basically for the Florida Panthers. I think he goes to Anaheim. Michael Bunting, he also goes to Anaheim, left wing for Toronto. I think he's overrated, but I think he's going to cash in out west. I think Connor Brown from Washington. I think he had an injury this year. Only played 4 games. I think he goes to Edmonton Oilers and makes some good money up there. Craig Smith, another former Washington Capital, goes to Calgary Flames because they have no money. And Craig Smith, former Nashville Predator legend. Uh, so I think he goes up to Calgary and kind of finishes up his career up there. Um, let's see, another Calgary Flame, Ethan Bear, another guy that's kind of a bum. Played in Edmonton, and then for Carolina, and now for Vancouver, and then he didn't get qualified. So I think he signs with the Calgary Flames because they got no money. Carson Soucy, former Seattle Kraken defenseman, signs with Vancouver. Vancouver needs some defensemen. And they also signed former Tampa Bay Lightning, Colorado Avalanche, Carolina Hurricanes defenseman, and Ian Cole. He's kind of a journeyman. Let's see. Oh, Connor Clifton, from Boston, defenseman. He goes and signs with Edmonton. They need all the help they can get on the blue line. Um, Depth. That's why they can't go in the playoffs because they got no depth. They're not like Vegas. They got no depth. Speaking of Vegas, Jonathan Drouin, center from Montreal, get him on a cheap deal going to Vegas, and he could succeed there and maybe get a higher contract somewhere else. Miles Wood, New Jersey Devils left winger, just sounds like a San Jose Shark. Like, just future Shark. Just when I saw that, I was like, that reminds me of a shark. So I think he goes out there. And then Sean Monahan, another bum. He played in Calgary, went to Montreal, left winger. I think he signed to Seattle. And then finally, to wrap it up, the goaltenders. There's 2 of them. Tristan Jarry goes from Pittsburgh to the LA Kings, and he replaces Corpusalo, and hopefully he is their netminder for the future and plays well out there. And we'll see if the LA Kings can make another run of the Cup like in 2012 and 2014. Finally, I know a lot of people are like, it's a kind of an anticlimactic one, but Mackenzie Blackwood re-ups with the Sharks. He was just traded from the New Jersey Devils to the Sharks for a 6th-round pick the other day, and he was not qualified by them, but I think he re-ups with the Sharks. Sharks go rebuild. He gets his confidence up. He hopefully plays well and becomes a great goaltender in the league. But I appreciate everyone for listening, and hopefully you stuck out these 40 minutes. And there's about an hour till free agency starts, so hopefully I can post this and edit it a little bit. And hope you all enjoy. See you later.